Hey everyone, on this episode of Hard Parking, I hit the road again, this time to Scottsdale, Young Motorcars, to sit down with Matt O'Connor, the Director of Operations. This is Hard Parking, brought to you by Right Honda and Right Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm your host, Jhae Pfenning. In just a few moments, we are going to get to our interview with Mr. Matt O'Connor. But first, some reads here. Is your business tech feeling whack? Too many tools, too much chaos, and not enough time? Arcus Foundry is here to fix that. With SparkForge, you get an unlimited platform that connects everything you need, your website, social media, phone systems, and more. No need for an expensive IT department or dealing with a bunch of separate systems. It's the all-in-one solution that saves you time and helps your business run smoother. Head over to arcusfoundry.com and use code HARDPARKED to get your first month free, upgrade your tech, and get back to business. All right, so before we get going, a little episode note. When I traveled to Scottsdale, I bought some new equipment. I brought it all with me, the microphones, the lighting, the cameras. And speaking of the cameras, there's a little issue in this episode where it kind of loses focus back and forth on me or Matt. But there's a little piece that I forgot that mounts the microphone stand on top of the tripod. And so in this video, you're going to see us holding these microphones. And normally you may not even know that, but these are definitely not the type of microphones that you hold. They're the type of microphones that are held by other equipment. But I hope you enjoy this interview. If this is what you like, make sure you hit subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, or subscribe wherever you're listening to this on podcast form and audio. And let's get going. Guys, we are at Young Motorcars with my friend, Matt O'Connor, who is also the Director of Operations. Matt, I've known you for a while. This is my 11th year living here. I've probably known you at least 10 of those years, loosely. But first off, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much, Jhae, for having me. It's been a pleasure, and it's been great knowing you for the many years, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
I think we hung out maybe once. We did maybe a cruise, and that was pretty much it. Like, we've done other cruises, and I'm going to talk about those because things were a lot different in 2014, 15 than they are now around here. And you've always kind of been mixed up in what I consider anything that's really important that surrounds really expensive cars and some of the big events. You've always had a hand in, but I don't really know much about you. So I would assume that most people don't know that much about you. So tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Well, I guess to kind of throw me in the deep end here. So I'm born and raised here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Just raised here. I actually wasn't grown in a family that really enjoyed cars. So I kind of had to find that passion, myself. And just coming into my teens, I really got to see the cars. Funny enough, I did a presentation in middle school on some Italian, just Italy in general, and then just moved into the cars and moved into everything. And it really found my way to really enjoying the car. Really starting with the McLaren F1, and Pagani was really starting to become a company in that time. And it was just a blast. And I just fell, just head over heels into that. And from there, it just kind of went from there, and just kind of, got to meet you as well as many other people into the community, and really loved the events, and just kind of went from there. But as far as me,
This is your second location for this company?
This is our only location.
Location.
We just had a previous location of about 2,500 square feet, and then we just moved into this. This is our only location at 12,500 square feet. And
that was right around Auction Week.
Yes, sir.
It was maybe led off Auction Week?
Yes, it was the Friday that led into Auction Week here in Arizona.
Could you ever imagine yourself being where you're at right now?
Definitely my teenager self would not have realized this is where I'd be in 10, 15 years. This is an absolute dream come true in more ways than one. Not just the cars, but truly for me, it's the people. The cars is definitely what got me started in the community, but the reason I've stayed is the people and just the incredibly amazing, generous, and kind people that I've stayed for. And just being in this community, and not only with Young Motorcars, but with the cars and the people that we work with, I love coming to work every day.
So you're a really nice guy. I don't know if there's a harmful bone in your body. Then there could be, but if there is, you've never really said anything, even in private, about people negatively. So I don't know if you've learned that through the years to where there's no I don't know, where does that come from? Because you have to have people that drive you crazy, especially in the world that you work in. But you also have, I saw that. Yeah, that's the truth. Like, you've always been incredibly kind to me, and I've always appreciated that. Like, where does that come from?
Honestly, yeah, you're definitely correct. There are definitely people that definitely can drive me up the wall or, get a little annoying, a little frustrating. But I really just try to say, hey, there's only so many things I can do. It doesn't hurt to be kind. It really doesn't. And as bad as it sounds, maybe not bad, but both my parents are attorneys. So I was raised in a family of attorneys. And,
starting to make sense.
Exactly. It kind of goes both ways. It's a blessing and a curse. But, I do love my parents, and they've really come to the conclusion of that we really just need to be kind to people. Doesn't matter the situation, bad, good, middle ground or anything like that. But just kind of put yourself in someone else's shoes. And, we've all gone through a lot, and I don't know everybody's story and what everybody's going through. I've had enough going in my life, friends' lives, families' lives. So the least you can do is be kind to everybody around you.
You're a big dog lover.
Absolutely, especially the golden retrievers, but I'll take any kind of dog for sure.
How do you do the golden retriever thing? Because how many have you had? How long have you, is it something you, growing up, was it like the family dog?
Funny enough, so the month I was born, my mom got our first dog. It was a golden retriever. Her name was Jordan. Absolutely angel of a dog. And just from there, we just stick with our golden retrievers. My parents are on number 4 and 5 dogs, and I actually just got my own first dog, Maverick, about 2 years ago. So between my parents' 2 and mine, we have the 3 together. And my girlfriend's got 2 dogs that are not Goldens, but we've kind of gotten a little family out of it.
Do you treat them the same?
I try to.
Are they like the redheaded stepchild?
Yeah, they can be a little bit. So my girlfriend's got 2 dogs. One's a pit bull and one's a boxer lab mix. They are absolutely amazing. They're a little older. They're both 7, and while Maverick is will be 3 later this year. So there's a little bit of a energy, difference between the 3 dogs.
Whose dog is Bo?
That is my mom's dog, who I consider to be kind of my dog. I remember one of my favorite photos of Bo was when we had it in front of your old NSX.
Right.
And got to bring it out to pavilions. And Bo is just, so my mom has him right now, and he's what we consider him to be FOMO dog. He is absolutely a fear of missing out in any capacity.
Speaking of the paths, I stopped by there on the way here many hours ago at this point, and I forgot that they're setting up. That is crazy, because the time was around noon, and it's not even a big weekend. Like, there's nothing going on around here, and you're from here. What are some of your memories of maybe that event, and what are your thoughts on how it still has managed to keep going? Because I think during 2020 it was down, and there was thoughts that it was never going to come back, and it's very much a part of this car culture around here.
Absolutely. Pavilions was never the car show that I always attended, but it was always something that we could attend if there was something that we wanted to do for Saturday evening. Growing up and going to car shows, earlier on in high school, even college days, I would go to pavilions. We always knew it as the evening event. We wouldn't really want to go until about 5 p.m. or later. I did know that there were a lot of people that went, towards like the 1 to 2 o'clock. The older people that wanted to bring out their classic cars, their Bel Airs, their Camaros, and stuff like that. But we all knew it as the evening event that we'd ride into, into 8, 9, even 10 o'clock at night. And definitely, like you said, it was interesting to watch, coming through the pandemic, and would pavilions prevail, so to speak. And I'm really glad that they've really come back. I know that the ownership at McDonald's there has changed hands, and just coming back, it was a bit of a fight in terms of the reservation, but it's great that the community is still strong. Love seeing that just stand around.
I think one of the challenges it's had is, and this is what all the car events say, like, when you're leaving, behave. And so there's always people who are not going to behave when they're leaving. There's the guy who ran into the tree, a couple of guys that ran out and hit other cars, and then the event was threatened. I think it's done at like 8:30 at night, at least the last time I went there. Because before I moved here, or when I first moved here, it's like, you don't go to, like you said, 9 o'clock, 10. It's done at like 11:30. But with you being involved with so many different car events around here, organized, I would say, not to say that McDonald's car show isn't, but I think a lot of people don't realize that the McDonald's Rock and Roll Car Show is the event, the paths is the area, Scottsdale Pavilions, and so I think it gets mixed, but that first part of it is very organized, whereas the second part of it are people like you and me rolling up there later on and kind of doing our own thing. But how have you been able to kind of navigate through the years in and out of each different group and still kind of maintain your level of not only, I wouldn't say self-respect, but people, no one's ever had anything bad to say about you.
Well, thank you. So a big thing on my part is I just love the people. And I really try to form relationships with people that, that I can help with, or I can assist and stuff like that. Like, for example, a number of the car shows that I've helped run, I don't necessarily run them myself. I just kind of like an assistant or helping or bringing in other people that I know to kind of either expand the show or kind of make it a different capacity, different brand or anything like that. And been very fortunate to know a number of people in different communities, so to speak. And that's exactly what I like doing. I like having one group of people that I'm in a clique with, so to speak. But I love having feet in different communities to really share all the cars that I enjoy, or all the people I really enjoy being with.
I would say you're a really good networker, but I think other people see that in you because it's easy, especially in Scottsdale, especially with the amount of cars that you've been around, the Ferrari Club, Fountain Hills. We're going to talk about that, where we're literally sitting in this showroom. Right off the top of your head, what do you think the value is of the cars that are in this part of the showroom? Tell us what we're looking at.
Well, I got right behind me here with the camera, I've got a Ferrari LaFerrari. We just got a Murcielago RGT, serial number 001. To my left, I do have an Aston Martin, one of 100, 7-speed V12 Vantage S. Behind Jhae, we have a 2009, 2010 Aston Martin Zagato TZ3 Stradale.
Alpha, right? Alpha?
Yeah, so it's built on a 2010 Dodge Viper chassis.
Wow. That
Alfa Romeo and Zagato put together, and it's really quite cool conglomeration, one of 9 ever built. And then there is a 914-6, and incredible in its own right. And then we do have a 25th anniversary Countach. Really a beautiful car, and
black
really
with
enjoy
a nice
that
interior.
every day.
That's nice.
And then behind the 914, got a Porsche Speedster 2019, very cool spec in the paint to sample Brewster green. And then on the other side of that, we do have a full carbon-bodied Challenger that is really quite amazing build, I might have to say. But in here, with a couple of these cars, we've got to be getting pretty close to about $12 million in this showroom alone.
And then because we're taking up this space, there's a car right outside these doors. What are we looking at out there?
So right outside these doors, we do have a Bugatti Chiron. It's a full blue carbon-bodied car. Really, really impressive car. And so we kind of just kicked it out of here to be able to have our little podcast here.
What does it all mean to you when you see these cars? Does it mean anything at this point? I know it's business. I know you like them. But being from here, was there ever anything you saw that just really excited you, or were you just so used to seeing everything?
You know what? For about 10 years, honestly, I get that. I take that back. Up until the time I went to Monterey Car Week in 2011, my first time going, I was excited about anything and everything I saw. Even in being in Scottsdale, even being in the early 2000s, before 2000, about 2010, I'd be happy seeing a Bentley Continental GT. It was amazing. I really enjoyed every piece. I just enjoyed the cars. I loved seeing anything on the street, even if at car shows. But I will say I'm not gonna lie. I've gotten slightly jaded over the years, being having all these kind of cars in my own showroom. But at the same time, I'm still excited. I like seeing the new things. Like, this is the first time I've ever seen an RGT, not only in my showroom but in my own personal life. But up until Monterey Car Week, it was like, okay. And since then, I'm just like, you know what? It's a Bugatti, it's a LaFerrari. I still get excited, but it's a different level of excitement.
Right. It's not a referendum on the cars, right? This is that what you just pointed out there, that Mercy, I think, is a perfect example. People don't see Murcielagos sometimes ever. When they see them, they're like, oh, wow, it's Batman's car. But when you're in it, especially having gone to Monterey Car Week, it takes something like that where it's like, whoa.
It definitely may not even be anywhere. It's expensive, don't get me wrong, but it's nowhere near the most expensive thing in here. But it's just a cool piece of history that I really get to enjoy. And I've really come to find that the historic vehicles are the things that I enjoy, learning more about. Like, for example, the 914-6. I haven't gotten into the history on it, but I'm sure it's got a beautiful racing history that I'd like to find out. It won first in XYZ race or whatever the case may be. That's the stuff I liked about the cars these days.
What are some of the things you've done over the past 10 years that I've known you here in the car community?
I've been very fortunate to be able to put on a handful of car shows between monthly car shows, the Scuderia Southwest group. I've helped with the Ferrari Club doing a number of events, through either Scottsdale Ferrari or other events. I've been incredibly fortunate to do a couple charity events, including being a part of the committee of Concourse in the Hills. It's been truly amazing to be able to give back to the community in that way. I've had personal family things with me, and I've been very fortunate in more ways than one that, if there's a way that I can give back, particularly in these charity events, I really try to take it up as much as I can.
How did it all start? Because since I've known you, I think the first time I met you was maybe at one of the supercar runs that used to happen here, and you were one of the organizers. And you're not getting into a Ferrari or a Lamborghini either. You're just a regular guy with a regular car without an attitude, but yet you find yourself involved in these groups and these very high-dollar machines with these very high-dollar people. Some of them are really nice, some people aren't that nice, but that's just anybody. Like, what was that moment? What was that event? Like, how did you get into it to be the guy?
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you bringing that up. So it was a very specific moment for me in terms of so at one point, like when I started going to car shows, I didn't have my driver's license. I wasn't even 16 at the time. I had to literally beg my parents to take me to car shows on a Saturday morning that they'd rather be doing something else. And I would attend these car shows. I tried to be there, as early as I could be to see the cars, meet the people and everything. And so until I was about 18, give or take, and at that point, of course, I had my license, and some of the owners of the vehicles had started recognizing me in terms of, oh, he's coming frequently, he comes almost every month, and he wants to be involved in some capacity. And a mentor of mine, these days, he was the one that actually came up to me. He's like, I see you every month, let me introduce myself to you. Is it something that you'd be interested in helping us out, help these events? And that was the fastest yes in my life.
Right.
I was like, what do you want me to do? I am more than happy to help in any way I can. And really, meeting that one person makes the biggest difference in the world. Meeting that one person, got to meet 2, got to meet 3, got to meet 10, to the point that I've gotten to know the whole clubs, and they're like, yeah, Matt's the guy, let's just let him run the show, and we can just be lazy, wake up later, and show up to the car events later.
I think because of that, you didn't probably screw anybody over, which is a big deal. And after a while, you just become like the man, right? Because I have a friend that runs a yacht company, and it's not that he does anything different. It's just he's very low maintenance when it comes to his clients. So it's like, okay, well, we got Matt here, and okay, we need someone to put on this event or help organize this thing. Oh, I got a guy, his name's Matt. No problem, he gets it done. Never had an issue with anybody. It runs smoothly. Here, give him a call, right? And I think that that's a way that a lot of these networking things happen. Be kind, don't screw people over, and you never know where you're going to find yourself. Do you think that's kind of accurate?
Oh, 100%. I really try to make it a big thing, not to screw people over. And, I hate saying no to people. I truly hate it. It's my hate.
To a fault?
Anything.
To a fault at times?
Almost to a fault, but I've really come to find that sometimes just saying no only helps me. But as you said, screwing people over is the last thing I ever want to do. I mean, will I fall short in some things? Absolutely. We all have our faults. But at the same time, there's only so many things I can do in a day. But I really try to make sure that I spend the time to get things done and not screw people over, and at least say what I do and do what I say.
What was that time where you first got into something and you were like, I can't believe I'm here?
Ooh.
Because earlier you were backing some of these cars up and driving around, and at this point, I mean, it's what you do, but when you get in something, like what was that first time you're like, holy shit, I'm like, I can't believe I'm behind the wheel of blah, blah, blah?
Ooh. I don't know if I have a very specific memory of that, but I know one of the first cars that I got to drive was an Aston Martin DB9. It was, don't get me wrong, it was a $120,000, $150,000 car at the time, and it was definitely slightly nerve-wracking. It was interesting. I remember driving through Old Town Scottsdale, and I had many, many cars behind me. I was like, oh my God, what is this? What is this? And I think at that point I was like, I'm actually driving something that people are turning their heads. They're pulling out their phones. They're like, there's a car in front of us that we care about. And I remember that I was like, I have to realize I'm not in a Ford or I'm not in a Chevy or something like that. I'm in an Aston Martin. And until then, it's just been, I've been very fortunate to be in a lot of cars and just been a lot of practice.
It's different though, right? It's different when you're driving a car and you can feel the eyes on you.
so different. And I see why leaving car shows, people feel like there is an obligation to maybe take off or squeal or do a slight burnout. It's just temptation though. But I see it. You have so many eyes on you. It doesn't matter. You don't know where they're coming from. They could be around the corner and they can still see you.
It's like you kind of want to, like, there's a part of you that wants to kind of do something fun and cool for them. You know, it's like, yeah, it's almost like the guy who does the flip off the diving board versus just jumps in, you know. No one flips if there's no one else standing around.
Absolutely.
You know, but unfortunately, I just made that up too, by the way. But, but you know, that urge, like I got pulled over once when I was leaving the paths in the old car. And I didn't even do anything crazy. Everybody had their phones out. There's a car coming. I speed up to get in front of the car so I can get on the highway, and the cop pulls me over. You know, exhibition of speed, all that dumb shit.
Right.
You know, but could I have been a little more patient, you know, and like I didn't think I was even showing out, to be honest with you. But you know, some of these cars, that first to second gear, that second to third gear, it sounds a lot crazier than it is, and it's going to turn a lot more heads. And I think that's what the case was there. So I understand that temptation. What's some of the things around here that you see that kind of drive you crazy in the car community?
Well, for me, I mean, kind of going back to, you know, being extremely fortunate to host events, but the people that really, my pet peeve are the people that don't really honor and really help the car show get better. They, you know, they're peeling out excessively. I mean, I get the small little peel out and have a little bit of fun. Okay, fine. You're 0 to 30 and then you slow down to the next light. But the people that really drive me nuts are the people that are really trying to show off to the point that there's a true exhibition of speed and really looking like someone can get hurt. We've had a couple scenarios at a number of our car shows that we've had to actually shut down car shows at certain locations because of people. It could just be one person. It honestly could be one person that can make a big difference in getting a car show taken down.
Yeah.
And it's happened more than once, unfortunately. So those people just drive me nuts, unfortunately.
What's your favorite event around here to do that's not something you're personally involved in?
Not that I'm personally involved in Arizona. Ugh.
I know there's not a lot that you're not personally involved in.
But you know what? I actually really enjoy going to those car shows. I can kind of go under the radar. Honestly, I really enjoy the Vault events. Just the people there, and Ron over there typically does a lot of things for charity.
He's great, isn't he?
I love the guy.
Ron's great.
I would do just about anything for him, and anything he calls me to do, I'd love to do anything to help him out. I bring cars over, whatever. I just love that event. He's got a beautiful facility, and it's just got a beautiful setup.
You know, I gets a lot of run on my show is 404.
Yes.
You know, it's easy to get to from my house in Gilbert. It's low key. It feels, and maybe it's kind of getting a little away from that now, but it just feels kind of like a old school sort of cars and coffee, almost like Alpio's. You know, I went to is it Alpio's or Alpio's? Alpio's. I've been there, I think, once,
okay.
And that was kind of like this nice vintagey feel. But if people say, Jay, I'm coming into town and I want to see something really cool, I'm like, let's come on the first weekend and I'll take you up to Highline, you know, because that's where all this stuff typically is.
Oh, absolutely. Love Alpio's, and next time you go to Alpio's or next time you want to go to Alpio's, let me know. I'd be happy to join you. Love Alpio. Again, another great location. You get a different feel in terms of cars. You get a lot of people that own the cars up that direction in the Troon area that don't typically come into the valley or come to other shows down here. So I enjoy going to that show as well, as typically different cars. Funny you mentioned 404. I know you go to 404 often. 404 is actually a show that I don't go to often and something I'd actually really like to attend more. Unfortunately, it's not terribly far from me, but there's so many events that go through in the valley every weekend.
Right.
It's a choice that we all have to make. And to be honest, lately, the last year or so, I haven't gone to a whole lot of car shows that I really should be attending.
What's your favorite thing to do when you're not messing with all the car stuff? Like, what does Matt do?
I spend time with my girlfriend and our 3 dogs that we have together. We've been doing a lot of house projects as of late, and just trying to keep to myself, I guess. I mean, I love grabbing a beer with friends and stuff like that, but every once in a while, I'll sit on the couch, relax, and hang out with the dogs.
So what kind of house projects do you guys do? So you guys, like, do you watch HGTV? Do you go straight to YouTube? Or are you saying, hey, look at this thing on TikTok. You know, you can do this in 5 minutes. That's what my wife does. She puts some shit in front of me. It's like, look, this lady said she built this thing and it only cost $36. I'm like, that's bullshit. And next thing you know, I'm building it. I'm $140 into it and it doesn't look any good.
Well, we've got a lot, ideas and a lot of things. So my girlfriend's actually in construction management, so she has a really good idea of how things go together. So ultimately, what she says goes. We actually did some gardening beds and relocated them into a different part of the backyard, and we're actually talking about getting like a pergola so we can get. We have like a ice body, bath, whatever thing,
Sure.
and a sauna in the corner, so kind of get some extra shade in there. But we're always doing something one way or another.
How long have you been involved with the commercialized business of what we're doing right now? Because I've known you obviously as someone who helps make events happen, but not always someone who's managing a business. And you may have been doing it in the background. Maybe I just never knew about it.
So I've been in dealerships specifically for, just a hair over probably about 10 years.
Okay.
So I've had an interesting rise up to where I'm at.
Tell us.
So I started really being the photographer for a number of smaller dealerships. And at that point, it was just a matter of meeting people. And it was all through the car shows, not necessarily hosting, but just the owners of dealerships or your general managers were like, oh, you know some people, you've got great photos, et cetera, et cetera. And just got to the point that I was doing a photography for a number of dealerships, at which point I'm like, okay, I need to branch up, whatever. So I ended up working over at Penske at the north location over here at the 101 in Scottsdale Road. And I actually was their photographer for, about 2 years and did all the inventory photos for all of their 14 plus dealerships they have there. And at which point that I decided to move up and I went into really what they call like their wholesale to retail division. So they'd have a division that would buy cars, and then I was in charge of basically reconning all the cars to get ready for retail. And that was a blast. Really, really enjoyed doing that in terms of getting to know people at Penske, and not just that, but also doing the recon and how it all works together, and meeting all the general managers and GSMs, and even the vice president over there. It was an incredible process. I did leave there, 2022, and very fortunate. Mark Hubbard over at Hubbard Auto Center asked me to do some inventory management and sales, and that's really where my sales career has started. And I cannot thank Mark enough. He has been a true mentor and a true person that I owe a lot to. And at which point I got the call to come over here at Young Motorcars to be the director of operations, and I just like to keep moving forward. And this has just been an amazing place to be.
So what does that entail, being the director of operations? How different is it, if at all, from, and maybe working at, I don't know, Tempe Ford, director of operations?
So, I try to keep my my hands in everything that we do here, whether it be marketing. We do have a truly amazing creative director who does photography and marketing, but I assist him in those matters. I assist with the sales, the purchasing, the recon. I really try to be a part of every part of the process, and we're really a small dealership of 4 people, and just kind of get things up. There's something for everybody to do.
Right.
And it's one of those things, like, I love Penske, don't get me wrong, but there was a very small window of things that I could do as far as the operation. Here in a small dealership like this, we all work together as a team to get things done. And I really enjoy that, just being a part of everything.
Which one of these cars is the biggest pain in the ass to drive or maneuver?
To drive? Ooh.
And then have you ever been sitting behind the wheel of something you're absolutely terrified of?
The Countach. The Countach.
You knew that answer quick.
It is not very comfortable. It's an absolute marvel to look at, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's a little ornery, that's for sure. The seating position, the pedals are slightly off center. It's really wide. You can't see out the side view mirrors. You have no rear view mirror view. But I enjoy looking at it every single day. I truly do. But just driving it can get a little nerve-wracking at times.
And they, that kind of encompasses what an exotic sports car is, especially from its time, to where it's not supposed to be comfortable. It's not supposed to be reliable. And that's exactly what this thing is. It's uncomfortable, apparently, right?
Oh,
it's definitely unreliable from what I understand. When I was living in Michigan, there's a guy who would drive one down from Traverse City, and he would say that he would have to stop multiple times to fix random stuff on every trip. Things like the spark plug covers popping off. Have you seen any crazy stuff like that with the cars that you guys run through?
Fortunately, I have not. I will say we don't typically drive them extensively, so we don't
Sure,
get to that point.
sure.
But I have heard that. I've heard many of those stories with many of our clients, and it's definitely, I love stories. You know, I love when a client comes in, not only to buy or not to buy, but just gives a story of why they like what car they want to buy, or what, you know, whether it was their dad that had this, whether it was their grandfather that owned a 1950s car. I just love those stories. But of those stories, you hear all these things of what thing can happen to these cars.
What kind of clientele do you typically have here? Are they generationally? Are they first timers? You know, I'm sure it's a mixed bag. Are they the Bitcoin millionaires? You know, crypto millionaires?
Honestly, I mean, like you said, it's really a mixed bag. You know, we can get everything. And I think the biggest thing for us, though, is we can't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
I have sold cars to people who literally walk in with raggedy old jeans, maybe just a Hawaiian shirt. They might have a Rolex on or not, but at this point, anyone that has a Rolex.
Our friend Jason, who looks like he's from the Fat Albert show with that big pink thing on his head, you know?
Right. But I mean, I've sold cars to those people all day long.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable to think that you walk into not necessarily Scottsdale Ferrari, but any Ferrari dealership in the country, and like, you can keep browsing. Like, you can't judge a book by its cover. You just can't. They could just be an undercover guy that just wants to have a good time, just wearing his jeans on and buy the next car. I mean, we've sold, 7-figure cars to those kind of people, and it's remarkable to see. And really, it varies from everybody that we saw, whether it's just the person that's just buying their first Porsche and they're just so thrilled, to a person that's buying a LaFerrari.
What makes you guys different, right? So you see it, and you're very customer service oriented. I mean, you give someone the shirt off your back. Like, you're very generous with your time, with your temperament and everything. You know, what makes you different from going into, I would say, and I'm not picking on Penske at all, but that's just the name that we've run. You going into Penske, or you go into some of these other dealerships that may be really high dollar, high end clientele, high end people working there. Maybe they're dressed to the nines because they have to be. You know, why would somebody want to come here?
Well, I think you said it. I mean, I really try to make sure that our customer service is bar none the best. It's really a backbone of what we do here at Young Motorcars with the owner here, Michael Young, and myself. We've really come together and make sure that we're on the same page as that. We really try to make sure that not only is the customer get everything that they want in terms of what they're buying, but the car is as represented. We make sure that everything is noted on the car. If there's a scratch on it in any way, if there's anything that needs to be fixed, that we fix it. Even if it comes out of our dime, it needs to be done. And one thing that we really, really try to stand behind is we try to say any car that leaves this building in any capacity whatsoever, we try to be with the life of the car.
Okay.
A client of ours calls us a year down the road. It's like, look, this has happened. How can you help me? We try to be on it. We really try to be. I can't promise that we'll fix it, but we will do our best to make sure that the client is happy in any regard. We want to make sure that the client's in the right car for the right reasons, and there's, no question about it.
Which is great. If I were in the market, which I'm not.
Well, anytime we're
But
here.
if I were in the market, I already know that, honestly, I could be like, hey, Matt, I'm looking for this car, and you would. I just did a rant about a friend of mine, and people are hitting me up and say, hey, who's Timothy? I'm like, hey, he's actually a friend of mine, but he's like, Jay, I need this car. Okay, Jay, another car. Who can transport this? Who can do this? Who can do that? Do you have people that, because you're so damn dependable, and maybe that's the good part of it, but you have people that are just constantly, they basically want you to go around the checklist for them.
Absolutely. No, I definitely do. And it's always interesting, seeing who the people are that reach out to me about, I watched a little bit of that clip that you did, and it's always interesting. Like, I'll even have some friends from high school, from college, like, hey, I know you're into cars. Can you give me a couple pointers? I'm happy to give you a couple pointers.
It's funny too, isn't it?
It's funny. Like, the people that are in the car scene, like, they know what they're looking for. I mean, they know what they want, a Ferrari or a Porsche. I mean, it's pretty black and white at that point. But it's like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about an F-150 and a Ram. I'm like, those are two very different cars. You just gotta have to test drive them. I mean, I wish I could tell you what I can tell you my opinions, but I can't tell you what to buy.
I guess I should probably ask you about EVs and hybrids and all that kind of stuff. I mean, do you have a preference? And then you have to kind of read the market, know where the world is going too.
The EV market's definitely an interesting market, that's for sure.
It is very interesting.
In more ways than one. I mean, I wish I could just boil it down. But, I mean, I'm not against EVs by any means. I think that they will have a strong impact no matter what they do.
There's definitely a place.
Absolutely. If you were to ask me personally about it, like, I'm all for having the EV, but I'm the kind of guy that I would never have the EV as my only vehicle.
There you go, yeah.
I would have it as the commuter car from point A to point B, whether it be work to home to your friend's house, whatever. I would do that. Whether you want to do the Prius, you want to do a Tesla, a Rivian, I mean, fantastic. Grab it. I'm not against it by any means whatsoever, as long as you understand what you're getting yourself into. Now you get to, for me, I do a lot of long distance driving. So I go between Phoenix and San Diego quite often. So the EV thing doesn't work well for me. Does the Tesla make it to San Diego? Absolutely. But I don't want to stop 3 times to charge. I just don't.
Right.
And it just gets annoying at that time. But people like their EVs. I'm not going to take it away from them, nor will I, intend to. But it's definitely an interesting market. But I'll never say I'll never own one. I might own one just as a commuter car.
Right. And then, so I think hybrid's probably the way to go. I think most people kind of agree to that. It's funny as you're talking about EV being the commuter, because I agree. They're transportation vehicles. They're not car people vehicles. And you can be a car person and just want to get somewhere.
Absolutely.
And I thought about the golf course. Now, I'm not a golfer, but I'm very observant. So you put a gas golf cart, which I'm sure they used to be.
You do?
And the electric golf cart, which most of them probably are. And most people are going to grab the electric golf cart because it's going to get them from hole to hole. It's going to be more quiet. They don't smell like gas. And that's your average commuter person.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's just that simple.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, they're great cars for what they are. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you can have an opinion either way. But for me, I wouldn't mind having something from point A to point B. And it's cheap for what it is, especially with the prices of, the Model 3s coming down so heavily. I mean, almost be stupid not to pick one up just to have something from point A to point B. You don't have to put the miles on, any other car that you have and just put it on the EV car.
Speaking of point A to point B, what's your commuter car?
So I actually just purchased about 2 weeks ago a 2023 Lexus IS 300.
Okay, all right. There's worse commuter cars.
Yeah, so I love it. It's been great. I'm just looking for a car that I could just drive the wheels off of. And I'd be more than happy to throw my dog in it, or all 3 dogs in it, and drive to San Diego anytime that I wanted to. Before that, I had a Jeep Grand Cherokee, which I absolutely loved. But, once I rolled it over 100,000 miles, it's like, yeah, this one should probably go.
Right. Now, you had, was it the FRS or a BRZ?
I had the FRS.
Right. Did you miss that car? Did you like that car?
I miss it in a lot of ways, but I am kind of glad I don't have it anymore.
Right.
For the first 2-3 years that I owned that car, I kept it stock. And, it was fun. It was great. But then when I bought a truck to kind of have as my daily, my FRS definitely got a good amount of love in terms of modifications. And I got it to the point that I was like, okay, I had a little bit of fun with it. Let's put it that way.
Right.
It was on the track a handful of times. I got to do plenty of drives down to Tortilla Flats, and I had plenty of fun with those, including getting around and driving around some Lamborghinis and Ferraris down to Tortilla Flats, and definitely had a couple of laughs over that.
Do you even have a dream car at this point? Because, again, look at where we're at. Look at where you're driving and backing around.
It's funny you mention that. So I just saw a clip from was it Chris Harris when he was here in the city for Car Week, and It's like every day is different, right?
Yeah.
Every day is different when you come to a dream car. Like it changes every day. But as far as the most consistent dream car that I've got is it's actually a Murcielago, an LP640 Murcielago in 6-speed.
Why?
I don't know. I just love the rawness of that car. It's got the manual to go with it. It's just a wild car. It's something that I wouldn't necessarily drive every day.
Right.
It's something I could hop in on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and just absolutely go for the mountains, go to enjoy it, and just have a blast. And I just love the looks on it. It's just so timeless, in my opinion.
What did you want when you were a little kid?
I wanted the McLaren F1. That was the car.
Like everyone, right?
That was the car that got me started in enjoying the cars more than anything, and it's almost unobtainable at this point.
Yeah, it has to be for sale.
Yes.
And it's one of those deals where you can have all the money in the world, but availability is a big thing, and if no one wants to sell it, you could say everything has a price, and I guess to a point everything maybe does, but it's unobtainium. All the money's not going to get it to you unless someone's wanting to sell it.
Oh, absolutely. And with only 106 of them ever made, I mean, the ones that go for sale, I mean, they go for astronomical numbers. And even then, it's like there's not a whole lot of them that go up. They just stay in collections or families and generations. It's quite an incredible car, though.
Do you know how many are left?
I know it's a good amount. I know when a McLaren F1 gets totaled or gets destroyed, most of them go back to the factory to get rebuilt.
Oh,
that is
okay.
one of the only cars that the factory will actually stand behind its product in terms of rebuilding the car and re-putting back a VIN on the car. Like, for example, Elon Musk F1 that caught on fire a number of years ago, it was rebuilt, and it's actually a Scottsdale car.
Is that the silver one?
It is a silver one, yes. We have 2 silver ones here in Arizona.
Oh, that makes sense. Do they look identical, or does one have kind of some body molding and stuff?
Slightly different. They look quite identical until you get closer to them.
How'd you get involved in Fountain Hills?
So I actually attended Fountain Hills when the first year that they had it. It was like, I want to say it was 2013, 2014. And I just kept attending on everything like that. And I got to really have the great pleasure of meeting Peter Volney, who is a true mentor, just a person I really look up to here in the Valley and in the car scene. And at just one point, he actually helped a lot with the Scuderia Southwest club that I helped put on their
He's a good guy.
shows. And Peter just like, hey, you do a lot of this stuff. Can you help me? And I was like, absolutely. What can I do? And that's just a big thing for me. I try not to take the ownership on it, but I just say, hey, what can I do to help? I try to be helpful, and Peter has been nothing but amazing in my life in more ways than one, and I've just been very happy to be even remotely part of Concours in the Hills.
Where do you think that show is going to go? Because it hasn't been here forever. I think people love looking forward to it. I know there's been some changes recently, but we still have the show. In fact, it's coming up April 19th?
That is correct, April 19th. Unfortunately, we had to postpone it due to some rain, and unfortunately, the Fountain Hills area where we have our show is all grass, so that rain gets collected very in areas that we can't have rain. Even
the threat of rain, you have to make serious considerations.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's really the safety about the cars and people for that matter. I mean, it's it can get a little slippy there, at times. So we did have to postpone it to April 19th, and I know people have been asking me literally since the day that we postponed it in terms of why did you postpone it to that day? Unfortunately, Fountain Hills had an event every single weekend until April 19th. It was, I'm sorry, but it just got to the point that was literally the next day that was available.
Well, people are asking me like I'm on the freaking committee or something. I'm like, I don't know, but there's probably something going on every weekend for them to push
exactly.
it. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. I mean, would I wish that we could have it, say, this weekend? I mean, it was raining a little bit this week, but I mean, still, it's like, I wish I could have had it this weekend, but just unfortunate that we had to push it all the way to April 19th. But if we want a show to really support Phoenix Children's Hospital, which is really what the ultimate goal is of that show, and we pushed that down, and we'll still look forward to having people then.
Has there been a lot of attrition because of the dates?
Absolutely. While there has been a lot of attrition, there's been a lot of other people that can come now. So I think it'll relatively even out in the general scheme of things. So I'm still looking forward. It may be a little warm, don't get me wrong, but we'll still have a great and fantastic show with some incredible cars coming out.
Yeah, I've been able to threaten more NSX owners around here to get registered.
Well, I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it because, you got to set up with the car club. And I've told and this is one thing that people have to understand when they're watching this or listening to this is it's not always, what can you do for me? It's what can I help do, for the event? What can I do for you? And there's been times in the past, and I've gone to a few of these where there's no NSXs there. Or there might be one NSX, and they wonder why we're way in the back. I go, guys, you have to show up.
Oh, absolutely.
If you don't show up, you're not going to get parking. You're not going to get this. And that's with anything in life. You have to show up because your opportunities have come because you were showing up, and people noticed you there. And you were really cool about it. You were respectful about it. You get these opportunities. And now I'm sitting in front of the director, of operations at this dealership.
No, absolutely. And it's a big part of just, I'm a big proponent to say, hey, how can I help you? I mean, there may not be anything, but it's just a question. Hey, what can we do? How can we make this happen? I mean, it could be an mission impossible, but with teamwork, I mean, there's not much you can't do.
What are the misconceptions that come with doing what you do? There has to be some, and I don't know if you hear them, but there's got to be people that feel comfortable enough to come up to you and say certain things, like maybe, I know you can hook me up with this car, or I know you can do this, or can you get me into Monterey? Can you get me into Pebble Beach? And can you get me into Barrett Jackson thing? Maybe some of the stuff you maybe have nothing to do with to begin with, But, how often does that happen? And do people get nasty if you can't give them what they want?
I hate to say it never happens, but it happens really quite frequently. And not necessarily by any bad intentions.
Right.
Many of them have good intentions. I mean, sometimes it's like, a friend coming in from out of town, say, hey, how can you help me out? Can we do this, X, Y, Z, whatever. And I've got a number of friends from, my high school and, college days. Hey, love to go to Barrett Jackson. Can you give me tickets? I'm like, I'm not part of Barrett Jackson, but, should be able to get a handful of tickets and see what we can do.
I'll talk to some people and see if I can get something, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I try not to say no, but I mean, if there's something I can't do, then I can't do it. But I'm always, willing to look into something. And, as far as Monterey, I mean, Monterey is kind of an open place to go. For anyone that hasn't gone to Monterey, I highly recommend it.
It can be very expensive.
It's gotten expensive, I will say. It's gotten expensive. But, there are ways of reducing those costs, whether you don't go to any specific shows and you just use the entire peninsula as a show. Like if you just stay on Ocean Boulevard in Carmel.
It's a video game. It's literally a video game because you tell people that. I'm like, I can't explain this to you more. You're sitting in traffic and there's 3 Ferrari F50s right in front of you. There's some other hypercar next to you, and then there's like 15 different Porsches. This is literally Test Drive Unlimited too. Absolutely.
I mean, you couldn't have said it better than I could. It's a video game. And one year, I think I was, running on fumes, and we literally stayed, 45 minutes north, almost in Santa Cruz. Didn't think we might have gone to one show, but otherwise, it was just being there meant the world to me. Just being there just meant the world. You didn't have to go to Quail. You didn't have to go to Pebble Beach. You didn't have to go to, go to the track necessarily, but just, everybody's going to be driving around somewhere. So just being in Carmel by the sea or just being in the area, I mean, it's the place to be.
It's funny. There's so many other things going on there other than Quail. And I usually, when I go, fortunately through Acura, sometimes we get, passes for that through the club. But I think the last time I went, we went to 4 or 5 events, and I didn't even know it even existed because we're too busy spending all Saturday or Friday at the Quail and Saturday at the Exotics or at the track. And there's something for everyone there.
Oh, it truly is. I mean, you get into the BMWs, there's Motorworks, there's all the other stuff too. So it's really quite incredible the amount of cars you can really pack that in Peninsula with. And there's something for everybody. I mean, for everybody, truly.
I think they're trying to, there's always the residents of those big events that are trying to get rid of it. And it's like, I'm pretty sure this brings money to your economy. And sure, you have to put up with some hypercars and people like revving their engines, but that's 1 week of the year.
Yeah. So it'll be very interesting to see the future of Monterey Car Week. And love for it to stay there, but, God only knows at this point. And it's just a beautiful area. Even outside the cars, I just enjoy going to Monterey. It's
a beautiful area
out there. And, I'm, in a past life, I guess I was a golfer, so I love seeing all the golf courses out there. It's just really cool, and it's just a beautiful area to be. I mean, even if that's not your scene, you got the aquarium, you got Cannery Row, you got it's the beach, the beach there. I mean, it's a beautiful area.
So this past year or this year here, did you notice they started labeling it as Auction Week? Arizona Auction Week.
I did see a little bit.
I wonder if that's going to be a thing in the future. It'd be kind of cool, especially with all the stuff that you guys are, you specifically have your hands in. But I could see, Young Motorcars maybe doing some stuff because the event you guys put on here, classy event, and the fact that you reached out and said, "Hey Jhae, if you could, I'd love it if you came to the event." I'm like, say less. And, Yvette finally actually wanted to come out to one of these events, and she had a great time.
Well, I'm so happy, not only that you guys came, but you brought your wife, and it was an absolute pleasure having you guys here, and it really got to bring people together. I mean, that's really what I'm all about, trying to bring people together, and I had an absolute blast, and I really appreciate you for coming out for that.
I mean, we try not to bother you, but you being you will find everybody that you know and walk up to them and say, thank you for being here, and it doesn't seem like something that's canned. It feels genuine. Like you really mean it when you say it. It's not like, hey guys, thanks for coming, thanks for coming, thanks for coming. Almost like a wedding, a wedding celebration to where you're not going to remember anything that happened, except for like maybe 4 things, but your memory and your hospitality has been second to none.
Well, we really appreciate it, and that's really what we try to do. And again, I just love bringing people together. And again, it's been a pleasure to be able to bring people together like that.
So what can people do? Let's get a hold of Young Motorcars first and foremost. If they want to come out, check out the showroom, they want to follow what's going on social medias, and then yourself.
we're open pretty much Monday to Friday. Love to show anybody the showroom, not just the showroom, but we also have about a 10,000 square foot warehouse in the back with some additional cars. Got our social media. Ryan Jhae, our social media guy and creative director, runs our social media accounts, Young Motorcars, on plenty of different platforms. And try to do as many shows. I mean, we've got a couple shows that we all try to attend and bring a handful of different cars out, whether it be my show, Scuderia Southwest, or Concourse in the Hills, or any other events that we have in town.
Tell me about Scuderia Southwest.
So I've been part of Scuderia Southwest, oh goodness, since about 2010, 2011. Really, that's the club that I just was attending since I was about 15, 16. And I get to the point that they just asked me, hey, would you be interested in helping us out? I'm like, absolutely. So really got to help out with Scuderia Southwest. We put a monthly car show. So at the time, we were over at Gainey Ranch on Scottsdale Road.
I remember that when I first moved here.
Our original location. So they had been there since 2001 when they started at the Coffee Bean, and then they kind of just took over that lot. At which point we had subsequently moved to a new location at Mayo, Scottsdale Road and Mayo, just south of the 101. That was a great location. We really were able to get almost 1,200 cars in there if we really wanted to grow that big, which on a couple of events we did. And
what happened with that? Was it some riffraff? Was it local companies or businesses in the strip mall complaining?
So it was a number of things. It led up to the pandemic. So we kind of left with the pandemic. It's kind of getting a little hairy, and people are unaware of all the new rules and everything going on. But we did have a couple of businesses that were like, oh, we don't like you here Saturday mornings, and we try to be as accommodating as we could. But unfortunately, with that many people, it's really hard to hurt the crowd. And we left. We were there for about 2 years, and it was just it worked out either way. And then we've gotten to the point that we've now into like an intimate car show. We're up at Market Street at DC Ranch.
Okay.
Up at Pinnacle Peak and Thompson Peak area. There's in the corners like a Grimaldi's and everything. It's a really cool space. We can fit about 200 cars in there. And generally speaking, it's just a car show for members of the club and or invited guests that we can invite anytime, but it's publicly available for any spectators.
What about your Instagram? People can follow your life with the dogs and everything.
So I've got my Instagram's MO'Connor21. Please follow me. I'd love to follow you back and show you all the dogs and all the cars that I play with.
It's funny, we got people pulling up and posing next to the Bugatti out here. I used to do that way back in the day, 17, 18. I'd call my buddies up and we would just pose next to cars at dealerships at night.
Absolutely. And it was funny because we had maybe, 10 kids here yesterday, just playing around, just poking around. And, don't get me wrong, we were having a little bit of a laugh in the back. It's like all these kids, they must have been 12, 13, 14 years old. Again, I get it. They're all doing their selfies with the cars. I'm like, you know what? If we had the phones, if we had this is exactly what we'd be doing.
Yeah.
And we did it to a degree.
Yep. That's what we were doing. Yeah, right. That was the.
And I just love seeing the passion coming from the next generation of car enthusiasts. I mean, whether they be just enthusiasts or owners, and it's just a cool feeling to see the next next group of people that are going to enjoy the cars, and just more people that we can include to the group.
All right, well, we're going to get out of here. I'm going to go out and I'm going to drive that Bugatti, then that LaFerrari that's behind him, and I'm going to do it blindfolded. But if you guys want to check that out, then make sure you watch the video for extended footage. Just kidding.
Well, we'll make it happen, though.
Thanks, Matt.
Hey, absolutely, Jhae. I appreciate you.
Hey, guys, I want to thank you for stopping by the podcast. If you like what you saw today, go ahead and hit that like button, hit subscribe, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. If you're streaming the audio, please consider subscribing and leaving a positive review. Believe it or not, that does help the algorithm tremendously. And if you're in a position to help the podcast upgrade, please consider joining the Patreon, patreon.com, Hard Parking Podcast. For as little as $3 a month, you can get access to bonus audio as well as Patreon exclusive swag and free show swag. Also, special thanks to the main show sponsors, Right Honda, Right Toyota, Toyota of Huntington Beach, Claremont Toyota, and Gardenia Honda, Arcus Foundry, AutoCannon, officially licensed Honda and Acura gear. Your support makes all the difference in this show. And if this is your first time checking this out, and if you truly enjoy this show, share it with the world, and I will talk to you all next week.
Now it's stripping time.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Shut up!